Hello and welcome. My name is James Kennedy. I'm the CEO, co-founder at Procurement Express. I'm joined today by my other co-founder, Richard Greenane. I'll introduce him in a second. And today we are not doing a podcast. Instead, after interviewing over 100 fractional CFOs on the podcast here with the aim of growing my business, I've generated exactly 0 sales. So we're switching tack and doubling down on which is to bring you even more fractional CFO news. And that's going to be a new segment we're working on, which is look at the common spending mistakes that's happened publicly in the news over the last week. Some stuff I hear off the record, but I can't talk about that. So let's talk about some of the spending mistakes, error, fraud, and omissions that have happened in SMB, private sector, and local government over the last week, and see if we can all learn something from it. And if not, at least be entertained a little bit. Rich, thank you for coming along today. How are you today?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, had a great weekend and get into these.
So let's get stuck in here. We have 3 news stories to cover early February 2025. First is Croydon Council's budget blunder. This is a article from the venerable publication InsideCroydon.com. So we've gone right to the top here, Rich, to get these examples. What happened? So London's Croydon Council is grappling with a severe financial crisis after overspending by £35 million in the current year and projecting a £98 million gap in their budget for 2025-26. The council's mismanagement has forced it to beg the UK government for a staggering 138 million bailouts. So let's start off here. Rich, give us the inside story here. What's your insight to be gained from Croydon Council's misfortune?
They've been in trouble since early 2020s, I think, and the mayor came in on a kind of a platform of he's going to beat the budget and get the finances back on track. They're about 1.4 billion in the hole at the moment, I think, and it's just getting worse. So budgeting wise, they're not doing very well with their budgets. I think that's the big thing to say about Croydon Council right now.
Has this just been straight up mismanagement? How did they get into $1 billion deficit in the first place?
Well, that's it. It depends on who you ask. I think it being a political establishment, it's one party is going to blame the other, but they got in there because they spent too much money when they shouldn't have done. So there was a couple of really badly managed projects that they were working on, and those projects pushed them over, and then they haven't been able to dig themselves out since then, by the look of it.
Okay, so I don't want to be too controversial here, but I don't think we expect fiscal management to be top of the agenda for a lot of local governments. So let's move on to the next one. Charity funds misused on fast food and shopping. So what happened? In Minnesota, a founder of a small food bank charity siphoned off donations for personal use, spending about $42,000 on fast food, retail shopping, and car expenses. The nonprofit's mission was to feed West African immigrant families, but the director's poor financial oversight turned it into effectively using the charity as a personal piggy bank. So what happened here, Rich?
Well, this is really classic case of no oversight on person that's holding the purse strings, I think. And I think what you can see on this one, the guy was taking money from 2016 to 2024. So 8 years. I bet in 2016, he was probably taking, the bus fare home, taking enough money for the bus fare home. And then by 2024, he's writing himself checks for new cars and iPhones and all sorts of other luxury stuff to his family. As soon as he got away with taking small amounts of money, then it's very tempting to take more and then more and then more. And every time he's getting away with it because there's no oversight. So what every charity needs is some kind of board level oversight, making sure that they're strict about exactly where the money's gone and that the money's gone by the right to the right place. The easiest way I know of to do that is to make sure that at least 2 or 3 people are signing off on those expenditures every time. Because if that happens, it's very hard to commit fraud in that way, because it's more difficult to get 3 people to be in cahoots with each other to do that over a long period of time than it is just one on their own.
What this reminds me a lot, I think you've brought this up before, is where charities, all the oversight goes into the granting of the money. But once the money is handed over, no one wants to know a bad story. Like if you're a grantor, you're giving money to an organization, do you really want to actually find any fraud? Because if you are, it looks bad on everyone's part, right?
Yeah,
So
that's it.
there's no motivation once the money has been handed over really to put controls in place, or is that unfair?
Well, the grantors have said to me in the past, people giving the money out have said to me, well, we do our due diligence before we give the money. And once we've given the money, that's it. It's gone. There's nothing we can do about it, essentially. And so they just ignore it. They ignore the problem. It also reminds me of a case that I was involved with a while back where in a coffee shop in Dublin town, the manager left for a 2-week holiday. And when she left, the profits of the coffee shop, or the takings of the coffee shop, went up by like €300 a day. And then, oh, hold on a minute, why are we taking in €300 more than we were when this girl was managing the coffee shop? So that was the same thing. She borrowed money out of the cash till for the bus fare home, realised that nobody was checking it, and then over a period of time, she took more and more and more.
Classic fraud mistake there. So in the final article we're looking at this week, COVID, still hanging around, COVID relief fraud by small business owner. This is reported in the expressnews.com. And a San Antonio small business owner exploited pandemic relief programs in a brazen fraud. He lied on a paycheck protection program and restaurant revitalization fund application to secure nearly $5.8 million, far more than the business was qualified for, and then blew the cash on personal real estate, luxury vehicles, and the stock market bets. It's a case of greed where emergency business funds were treated like a lottery win. Will COVID stimmy checks ever go away? But tell us about this one, Rich.
Yeah, so this guy put in a couple of fraudulent applications. Although he was committing fraud, the onus was on the people who were checking all of those documentations before they actually gave the money out. Obviously, they didn't check the documentation properly or until it got picked up by an audit afterwards. What he did was he said that he had 400 employees. And then when asked to supply the employee list, he just went on a random name generator and generated a list of 400 employees on the random name generator and sent that in. And they just took that as, okay, that's it. He also said that he had paid taxes on their behalf as well, which he hadn't. And this paycheck protection that the US had because of COVID, very easy to get money out of it. And these loans are not loans that were expected to be paid back even. So I'm sure there are a lot of other people that this is going to come up if they get caught. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that are going to get away with it. But this guy got so much more money than probably anyone else did. So that's why he got caught, I'm sure.
So that wraps up our inaugural whip round review of spending mistakes in the news from early February 2025. Rich, if any of these people had used Procurement Express, would they be in the mess that they are now?
Of course not. Of course they wouldn't.
Yeah.
If they'd used Procurement Express in the first place, then that would have taken care of most of the fraud problems.
And let me just throw you some common objections there. Let's say the food bank program, right? $42,000, a lot of money, but actually, in the scheme of things, is it worth implementing spend control when the monies might necessarily be huge? Like Procurement Express might cost you $1,000 a year to control 40,000. Is it worth it?
The fact is he got caught, but if he didn't get caught, he could have spent a lot more. That charity, its entire budget for giving out money or buying food for money for the food bank might have been $42,000. So it could have been like 100% of the money that charity had. That's one thing. How Procurement Express could help would be that you can prove that every single dollar that you spent had gone through 1 or 2 or 3 people, or even more if you wanted to. So you could prove that happened. So as an honest charity director, you're much better off having a system like Procurement Express so that you can prove that you're not committing fraud. Because if anyone suspects, you can just roll out that documentation, that audit trail, and see everything that's there and prove that there's no way you're committing fraud in any way.
It's true. I predict a lot of people are updating their LinkedIn accounts this week, removing the food bank from their list of charitable nonprofit organizations that they're working for. All right. This has been good. We'll be back next week. If you have feedback on this, let us know. If you find this useful, let us know. And we were shamelessly shilling at the end, but that's what we're here for. So thanks, Rich.
Thanks. Bye.